And welcome everybody to One on One. This is Friday. Hello everybody. Today is April 12th and this is WRMN. This is Leah here with a one-on-one edition. Try one of those and we'll see if we can get some headsets on here. Obviously we have the great programming every Friday. Is that volume okay? All right. We've got the programming every Friday for one-on-one, and what I've decided to do, and the funny thing is I was looking at some paperwork, and we're going to be having, when we go to break, we'll have a special graphic that comes up on the screen, and I'm going to bring it our whole picture up right now so you can see that I've got a wonderful guest in studio today. But we're going to have a graphic that comes up on the screen that says, you know, we're on a break right now, we'll be back, and then it'll tell you the program. So for example, Matt's got Matt McNeil on it saying that this is Matt, I'll be back after these messages. So you're not just staring at an empty studio, right?
Sure.
And you've heard the voice, so you might not recognize. I was going to say get a guess out there, but now we have the benefit of the camera, so you got busted right from the
There you
get-go,
go.
Greg.
No chance of hiding now.
I've got Greg Mucha joining me in studio today, and he is coming to us from Anderson Humane. And Greg, I have to say, you and I kind of met through, it was a promotion that we were running. Was that maybe a year ago?
Yeah, it was when we were doing our comedy night
That's
in St.
it.
Charles.
That wasn't even a year ago.
No.
And I always say, there's honestly, it seems to say it a lot, but there's probably a small group, maybe a couple dozen of people that I can talk to and just have conversations. And you realize, and you and I, over the time here that we've known each other now, have been able to talk, family. We've talked about his work history, where we lived, and I think that's part of the great communication that you can have with a partner of WRMN. Not only that, but somebody that you also consider a friend.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, like I said, this is our relationship just blossomed very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had a lot of things in common, though, too, which helps.
Right.
So,
and one of those happens to be obviously animals. And
Yep.
Initially, I had met Greg when they did the promotion for the comedy night, which was fantastic. That was held over at the Arcada.
Right.
And it was a nice night for everybody to commune around, everybody having the same goal.
Right.
Making some money, having a fun, eventful entertainment evening, and then just learning about it. And I ended up seeing, okay, now I wanted to say it was a ferret, but it's not a ferret. What was the little animal that we had?
It was an opossum.
Opossum,
Yes,
there we go.
It's our ambassador, one of our ambassador animals.
And the reason I say that is because it was so small at the time I saw it, and you can't really, it doesn't look like when you think about an opossum when you're, the gritty
Angry,
teeth
right?
and the beady eyes, and
Right.
and it had the little eyes looking at you, but it was just like this innocent little creature. And you said that the reason that you were talking about it, and you said because people don't understand the value of these animals in society. We
Yeah.
always look at them like,
Right. Everybody's afraid of them, and there's no reason to be. They're the most docile wild animals around, and they're so beneficial to the ecosystem.
that's it.
Yeah. So we have a tick problem here, and with the winter not being as bad as it was, it's going to be really bad this year. So those opossums will eat thousands of ticks a day.
Really?
Absolutely. So you want to make sure you keep them around. And some of the interesting things people don't understand is they eat a lot of the things that we don't want
Got it.
around. So it's great to have them. And so if you see one in your yard, be happy you've got one.
Exactly. It's going to be a safe yard.
Exactly.
A healthy yard, if anything else.
Exactly.
But that's true. Then it got me thinking, why is it that that seems like something that we're so anti? And I think it's just because any kind of nocturnal animal, I think people start to get freaked out about because their eyes are usually glowing a little bit in the
Right.
dark. And so it's that eeriness that comes to it. Otherwise, I can't think of any other reason to be feared of them.
Well, people love raccoons,
Right.
but they're little thieves.
Uh-huh.
They really are. And, those are the ones you need to be more worried about. 'Cause raccoons are a little bit more, so they're higher on the rabies spectrum.
Got it.
That's one thing about opossums, too, is they'll never have rabies.
Why? Why is that?
Their bodies just, they don't develop rabies. They can't get rabies. So if somebody said they see a rabid opossum, it's impossible.
Impossible,
It's
yeah.
impossible for them to be rabid.
They're
So-
just crazy naturally.
Correct. Yes, you got it. That's exactly
Well,
it.
and that's the one thing you always hear too, especially, they say don't leave any garbage out because it'll attract the coon,
Right.
it'll attract all critters. And so there's one thing to be just responsible, but there's another thing to know, especially this is the reason that we need places like Anderson Humane to educate us on things like
Correct.
that.
Yep.
So that you said, and I remember you told me that night, this is going to be our mascot. This is going to be our signature child here, right?
So we have her. She actually grew. She's gotten a little bit bigger. I just had a tour group come through the shelter with me yesterday, and everybody just falls in love with her the minute they see her. She is so gentle. She loves people.
Well, she's got to be a people person anyway, just from being around people since her, her
Exactly,
little.
exactly. So she connected with our handlers right away, and once that connection's there, it's really hard to break that bond. And again, this is what we talk about all the time: the human-animal bond. It's a very powerful thing. It's very therapeutic as well. But once these animals bond with us, that's it. So we have to be very careful when we're rehabbing wildlife that we don't have that imprint take place. Because if they do, then they rely on us, and we can't release them back into the wild.
Not to survive.
Correct.
I think that's what people worry about sometimes. Or some of them, the right people worry about it. And the people who aren't knowledgeable, they think they're doing something nice by picking up those little eggs or by seeing these little critters. And you don't realize that you're going to make it impossible for them to live on their own.
Correct.
I knew that we had our interview today, but I was daydreaming and thinking. And as I was making my way here and thinking to myself, ooh, I didn't tell Greg about the parking. Yeah. So, but anyway, so I was daydreaming, and there was somebody in Festival Park that had their dog just running around, and they weren't throwing anything for it, but you could tell the dog was taking off running like it was going after the hottest, coolest ball in the whole entire universe.
Right.
And then wasn't retrieving anything, but then came running back to the owner, and the guy just kept walking, just regular pace.
Yeah.
And that dog was doing laps around him. And I said, that's the great thing about a pet is, first of all, I don't think I've ever seen a dog when they're out running, smiling, their tongue hanging out, happy as a lark, and just like, give me some attention. Hello, I'm right here,
Yep.
And I think that's the one report I get from animal parents fur parents, is that they say, you know what, I come home and even if I'm having the worst day possible, I've got a wonderful greeting.
Exactly. So every day I walk in the door, my dogs are both, as soon as they hear the garage door open, they run to the door because they know I'm home.
The tails are wagging.
and they're waiting. And the minute I open the door to the mudroom when I walk in, they're all over me.
Yeah.
And it's every day, it's the same thing. And you would think at some point they kind of, okay, it's a routine, but dogs are just very habitual.
Yep.
And once they set a habit, they do that every day. And they love us so much and spend so much time with us. And they follow me around the house until I sit down.
It's interesting because you don't think they miss you during the day when they're all by themselves. Right. But then when you get home, you think that they've been a long lost relative that they hadn't seen in years, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's so great.
How is it that you don't, I've always wondered this for people who work at shelters, that you don't have 12,000 animals at your house?
And it's funny because a lot of people ask us, and even with fosters, right? So we have a lot of fosters, which is great. But they say the same thing. But what happens is after you realize that the work that you're doing is helping this dog find a forever home, it becomes easier and easier every time you see the connection when someone does adopt him and you see how that person's life is changed by that animal. It gives you a sense of gratification.
Right.
It's like I did something good by taking care of this animal and finding it this home.
I think there's probably foster families that are the go-tos too, that have been doing it a long time, are really good at it, are welcoming to take an animal in, especially in an emergency.
Correct.
That's the reason I like to have Greg in on the studio, because I couldn't say it as eloquently as he does, but it's those households that you rely on that actually keep this whole cycle going. Because I would imagine the tough part is that if you don't have a home to take them to, you have limited space.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So that's a thing. So 70% of the animals in our care right now are in foster homes.
Got it.
Which is fantastic because it makes the transition when they get adopted into a new home a lot easier than it is coming from the shelter. So, and again, we try to rotate the dogs if we can from the shelter into a foster home if we can do it.
Right.
But typically most fosters will have the dog anywhere from, a week to maybe 4 weeks.
Okay.
But, in some cases it's right away. I mean, puppies go right away the minute we get the puppies in. Once they're ready for adoption, usually within the first week to 2 weeks, they're gone.
Yeah.
They find their homes.
You got that puppy cuteness on it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the same thing with kittens. I mean, it was funny. Yesterday we had some people from ComEd come in who made a donation of 35 blankets, which was wonderful, for the new kennels. So we just got some new kennels in. So we just renovated the kennel area. And one of the women happened to be in the lobby, saw a kitten she loved, and adopted it on the spot.
See?
So it was amazing, right?
Yeah.
It was one of those things where once you see that animal, it touches your heart and you can't turn your back.
That goes back to our connection.
Yes.
We were talking about
Right.
connections when you see
Exactly.
something and you can feel it. And that's the one you're probably happy to put in that home because you know how
Absolutely.
you saw her excitement and genuine
yeah.
behind it. I always, too, anytime I'm ever talking about adoption with the rescues that I've had over the years is that I always say, remember, and I know everybody's always said that too, puppies and kitties are cute, but remember, they grow up, right?
Well, that, and there's a lot of work to get them to grow up, right?
Yeah.
So, when we always, our counselors, our adoption counselors will spend a lot of time with individuals when they first come in, if they've never had a pet before. If you've had a pet before, you kind of understand the process. But if you haven't, they go through that whole process and explain, this is how much money you'll spend in a year, and here's some of the things you can expect, and this is what you need to do to make this animal adapt to your home in
Maybe
the best
that's why
way.
you've had such a great success rate. I think it has to do with the counselors. I think it is preparing people for exactly knowing what to expect.
Yep.
It's one thing for people to just try and get as many pets as they can out the door, and
Right.
those aren't the ones you want to shy away from. Is there an accreditation that Anderson Shelter, Anderson Rescue, Humane, the first name, full name out there, Anderson Humane, but you are kind of quite familiar in the community now over the years. As long as I've been here
Right.
in Illinois, I'm familiar with you. But for other people who don't have something like Anderson Humane, are there things that you should watch for to make sure these are legitimate facilities?
Yeah, I think the thing that you want to look at, there's a lot of great rescues out there that don't necessarily have a facility in the area.
Okay, that's a good point.
But they're great rescues, and they rely totally on fosters for what they do.
Right.
You just do a little research. I always tell people, if you're looking for an animal, we always say adopt, don't shop. But when you're
That's a great
looking
way.
when you're looking for the animals, is do a little research. Go to their website. See what people have said about the experience they've had with them. That always makes a huge difference.
Right.
But again, we all work together. We all try to support each other. So we've worked with other rescues in the area to help them when they are overburdened. And we call them under-resourced, right?
Right.
So they get to a point where they're maxed out and they can't handle anything else. So we'll work with some of the other ones in the area to try to help them out. We'll take some of their animals in, vice versa.
Well, I can understand that, though, because you guys are all out for the same goal.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
there's no reason to have a competition between each other.
No.
You're all out to try and get homes for these animals, right?
Correct.
What kind of animals can you expect to find if somebody, and I'm going to guess you probably get a lot of people that just decide to tour. They might not necessarily be looking for something, but they're just starting the idea of adoption.
Right.
Is there special times that they can come through Anderson Humane to see the animals or to find out what you would have available for adoption?
Sure. So we're always open. So this year we actually, Mondays and Fridays, we've added an hour. So we're from noon to 7 Mondays and Fridays right now. So
I love that. I love that people understand that folks work until 5 or 6. I'd
Exactly.
rather start later in the day to make
Right.
sure you've got those hours at night. That's
correct.
smart.
And then during the week on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, it's noon to 6
Okay.
p.m. And then on the weekends, we are, and I'm going to state this because I'm not sure 100%. It sounds crazy, but I think it's 11 to 5 on Saturdays,
Okay.
and or 11 to 6 on Saturdays, and 11 to 5 on Sundays.
And of course, you can always go to the website if you want to find out more information. If we haven't covered it today, you will find it out online, folks. You can check there as well. Another thing I did want to mention is that you have got one of your biggest fundraisers. I think, is your gala the biggest fundraiser that you do throughout the year?
It is. It's typically our biggest fundraiser, and it's a great event. We've actually sold out all the tickets already. Actually, we did
Yay.
about 2 weeks ago, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But we'll have about 275 people attend this event. We do live and as well as silent auctions. And the one thing we're doing differently this year is, in fact, it's going to open today. We're going to open up the auctions online for people who can't attend but still want to help support us.
That was going to be my next question. I said, what about people who, because quite often there are auction items and things that you can have, and they'll post those on the website. So I'm going to put that up on our page right now. We have 4 animals. If you want to make a donation or if you'd like to see some of the items, right now to view the website, it's ahconnects.org, so you can check that out. And right now, if you are tuning in, we do have Greg joining us from Anderson Humane, talking a little bit about the gala. Now, the gala all comes with donations, and I obviously know you've got wonderful sponsors. Being as this is one of your bigger events, it's a gala. Where's it going to be held?
So this is going to be held at Eaglebrook Country Club in Geneva. And it's going to be from 5:30, I think, till 10. It might go later. All depends on how late people stay around. We're not kicking anybody out.
Yep.
So, and it's great because it's, cocktail hour first, and then we have dinner, and then we have a presentation. And one of our speakers this year is Dr. Temple Grandin.
Who is that?
And so Dr. Temple Grandin is she's an expert on animal connections.
Okay.
So she's a very high-functioning person on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
She's written dozens of books on autism and how animals can help us ease the pain and issues you experience with autism.
Right.
And then she's also helped revolutionize.
Does an autistic person feel more of a connection to an animal than they do a human?
That's what she says, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me,
and
though.
it's very true.
They're not asking for anything.
And they don't judge.
Yep.
Right? So that's a big part of it.
Right.
And they do help in a lot of different ways. And that's what she's coming to. She's our keynote speaker, so she's going to talk about that connection between animals and humans and how that is impactful in someone's life.
And Anderson Humane is not any different than a lot of organizations here, nonprofits, that use a gala like this to actually educate people.
Correct.
And so some of that gets to be, is the important thing is to finding who your keynote speaker is going to be.
Right.
So for this one, I love it.
Oh
I
my
love
gosh,
it.
she's incredible. And there's been a movie. There's actually a movie called Temple Grandin. That,
Really?
Yes, that you can check out, and it talks about her whole life story. And one of the unique things is that she actually went through a meat processing plant for cattle.
Okay.
Have
Have you ever been through one of those?
I have friends that own one in Colorado,
Okay,
and that
yeah.
was the one that she went through
Okay.
when she helped revolutionize the way the animals are processed.
Right.
And she literally walked through on all fours like a cattle would through the entire line
To see what it was like.
and revolutionized how they are. So one of the things that she discovered is you ask any hunter who hunts deer, if you don't get the deer with one shot, you don't want the deer, because what ends up happening is cortisone is released into their system.
Yep.
And that basically ruins the quality of the meat. And it's the same thing with cattle. So she found out that if she can do it in a less stressful way, it was a much better product in the end, and it was more humane to the animals. That was the key.
Well, that was the key, but I can understand how her turning that to make it better for the company too.
Correct.
Using a statistic like that to say, hey, you're going to get better product.
Correct.
So you'll be able to make better money. You'll be able to
Right.
provide a better service. That's interesting. Is it on your website, her connection on there?
It
so
is. If
for
you-
the gala?
Yeah, I think if you go to the website and you go to events,
Okay.
and you go to the gala, her bio is listed on there, and it talks about it.
So again, folks, if you want to read this book, it sounds phenomenal to me.
Oh, she's
if you want to
incredible.
read this book, then definitely, if you've ever been through one of those plants, I understand and appreciate there are animals that are designed and meant to feed us,
Right.
and I appreciate that part. So I'm not an anti-hunting kind of person. It's just a matter of caring for those animals that are not in that category and caring for them even though that they are giving their life. Make their life worthwhile and for the meat that they're giving you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to take away from that. Now, you said that people can go online. You're going to have some of the auction items online, so you can bid. So if you don't feel like getting dressed up and you know it's sold out anyway, you can say, wait a minute, I can still donate and I can still support this wonderful organization.
Right,
That's by
correct.
going to AH, and again, it's ahconnects.org. Are there other ways that people, I do know through donation, and I know if people are seeing, if there's dog food, is there certain things throughout the year that Anderson Humane is looking for that they would like to put out donation requests for?
Yeah, and a lot of times if you just go to our website and it talks about donate, there's actually wish lists listed on our site that
Okay.
they can go to and select items that they can donate. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll put out an appeal. So if you follow us on social media, we'll always put out appeals for specific things that we need at certain times of the year when there's a dire need.
And social media, you're talking, so we can follow you on Facebook. If we follow you, we'll get a link saying this is our
Correct.
appeal?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So if you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, we also do some stuff on LinkedIn as well. So there's always something that's being posted.
Got it.
And that way you can follow. And we'll also tell some good stories about some of the people that have adopted. So we share what we call happy tales.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people that adopt will talk, come back to us and share photos and say, here's how it's going. This dog has changed my life, or this cat's, made an
Most of us
incredible
do. Have you
difference.
ever noticed that? Like, we're
Yeah.
proud. You
Oh.
are just, you want to share that love with somebody and tell your story on.
And how many pictures of your animals do you have on your phone?
Of course,
Right?
exactly.
And,
yeah.
And you look for your kids, you can't find them, but you
that's,
got your pets.
That's true, right?
Exactly.
And again, folks, if you want to find out more information, go to the website. It's ahconnects.org. And if you want to throw a phone number out there, Dan, or Greg, excuse me, you want to do that real quickly?
Sure, it's 847-697-2880.
2880. So if you have any questions, you're wanting to know what they have, there's a lot of people that we do know that listen that don't have social media. So if that's
Right.
fine, you can still call Anderson Humane 847-697-2880. Greg, I want to thank you very much. It's a pleasure always speaking with you, and I look forward to creating some wonderful partnerships that we can do in the near future. We've already got some great ideas, so now we'll just we'll keep them a secret for now,
Right.
but stay tuned and keep it here, or make sure you keep up with Anderson Humane. Thanks so much, Greg.
Thanks for having me on today.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm reminding everybody that you are listening to One on One with Leah here on this Friday, April 12th. We'll be back in just a bit.